me, myself, Adam, Valerie, Islan, and finally Kate. So Japan, we all know Japan is considered to be a top tier economically developed countries, which is known as the G7 economies. So and it continues to develop infrastructure that is sustainable and strong enough to withstand the high magnitude of earthquake. However, that's the other threats that Japan is facing. That what is concerning at the moment is Japan is facing labor shortages, shrinking and aging population that might affect their working environment. So, all right, that's just a brief overview of the introduction. So now, for today, we will continue our discussion by exploring theoretical perspective on the issue of Japanese modernization. So we'll be focusing on two theoretical perspectives, which are Marxism and modernization. So I'll pass it to Islan. So Islan, can you explain a little bit briefly on Marxism theory of development?
All right, thank you, Adam. So, as we all know, Marxism is a social, political, and economic ideology that was first introduced in the Communist Manifesto written by Karl Marx and his co-founder Friedrich Engels in 1848. Marxism looks at how capitalism affects labor, productivity, and economic progress, and it advocates for a worker revolution to overthrow capitalism and replace it with communism. Karl Marx felt that there are only two classes in a capitalist society, which are the bourgeoisie, who own the means of production, and the proletariat, who convert resources into products. Given that the bourgeoisie own the means of production, they are economically and politically more powerful than their proletariat counterparts. Let me include some points on the weakness of Marxism. For me, one of its biggest flaws is that it does not appear to work in real life. This is because it ignores the greediness and selfishness of humans. For example, the impact of this weakness can be seen in Japan's work culture, particularly among the hikikomori group. One reason contributing to this problem is the hikikomori inability to cope with the pressures and demands of living up to family expectations or society standards, such as finding a good job or getting a promotion. It is in our human nature to be greedy and selfish when we have to compete for something. Those who are unable to compete will be subjected to social shame, leading them to withdraw from society. In short, Japan's hikikomori and working culture have demonstrated the significance of considering human nature in a way that Marxism has failed to do. Thank you. Back to you, Adam.
All right, thank you, Islan. If I may add few of my points to the view of Marxism theory on this issue, so Marxism, as like you mentioned, it focuses on class struggle between the bourgeoisie and the proletariat. So similar to Japanese society, which were previously known to be a very homogeneous society, has now become a more socially stratified society and socially divided society. So the Japanese themselves have five class identifications, which are the upper middle, the lower middle, the upper low, and finally the lowest. So everything is based in the Japanese working culture. Everything is based on their ranking, and all of their roles are fixed. So meaning to say their promotions and etc. are based on their ranking. So, and I'll add a few strengths to the Marxism theory of development on this issue is that Marxism have given a linear stage of development. So similar to Japan, the transition from feudalism, agricultural to capitalistic society of Japan provide a clear linear stages of development. So previously it was land ownership in the rural area by with rice cultivators, and which was the superstructure of capitalism between landowners and rice cultivators in the feudal society. So but now is looking on their working societies with the firm, and Japanese values their pay levels, and everything is more input oriented as to their pay levels. So as much so their working time, as Islam has mentioned, contributes a much more values as compared to their pay levels. And so that is all from me. So next to discuss our next theory is on modernism. I'll pass it to Valerie for further elaboration on the theoretical perspectives.
Thank you for that, Adam. So, I'm going to explain what is the modernization theory. So, for modernization theory, it started from North America and Western Europe in the 1950s, which is why their industry were developed. Modernization is a stage of development from traditional society to modern society. And in order to be recognized as a modern country, they must go through advanced technology and science that is more evolved. Modernization theory paved the way to evolve the traditional way to encourage the improvement of the country. Although modernization theory has been proven that it has indeed made positive developments, but it has slowly, in the modern era, it has affected the societies. And there are also a few weaknesses on this theory where it gave the damage towards the working societies in Japan, whereby they have to work extra hard and beyond their capacity in order to keep their job on the line. Despite title as the most technology advanced, Japan has failed to break the stigma of the mental illness among their people, and this makes the working class avoid seeking professional help. That is all from me, Ada.
Right. Thank you, Valerie. So now, Kate, I'll pass it to you, Kate. How do you think that this? What is your view on this theory on this issue?
Okay, according to modernization theory, traditional civilization will evolve as they embrace more contemporary practice. Modernization theories argue that contemporary nations are wealthier and more powerful, with citizens who are freer to enjoy a greater quality of living. So, according to Skeptici, over the years, Japan has been losing its culture to the wave of modernization and industrialization. It is often said that Japan is becoming westernized, and the triumph of the United States over Japan at the conclusion of the World War II triggered a surge of westernization. So as Japan develops its industries from traditional to modern, their employees in the industry also have to work hard and some even work overtime because it has become their habits. So even though Japan has been modernized and been said to be becoming westernized, the Japan over time is often seen as a measure of diligent and good workers. So back to you, Adam. That's all from me.
All right. I would like to thank everyone for providing the strength, weaknesses, and the application of this theory in this to this contemporary issues. So now let's look on the similarities and differences between these two theoretical perspective in analyzing this issue. So Islan, what do you think on the similarity between these two theories, which is Marxism and modernization?
All right, thank you, Adam. For me, the most notable similarity between modernism and Marxism is that both are philosophies marked by rationality, intellectualism, material progress, scientific reasoning, a rejection of tradition, and moral relativism. Modernism has long been associated with a society's transition away from feudalism, and it refers to the intellectual and philosophical transformation that occurs as a society moves from an agrarian to an industrial economy. As for Marxism, it is a modernist philosophy and belief that history is a trajectory that can be comprehended intellectually and scientifically. In other words, Marxism illustrates several essential features of modernism with its emphasis on destroying tradition and propelling history forward. Back to you, Adam.
All right, thank you, Islan. So, in my opinion, there are significant similarities between these two theories. So, both theory look at industrialization and changes in the political system. So, changes in value, like modernization, is a systematic process that contributes to modernity, and changes from traditional values adopted to modern values. So, this is more of a Western-oriented values of development. So similar to Marxism, when its view of changing from feudalism to Japanese capitalism, there can be seen a transition of process of values to finally from feudalism to capitalism and finally to socialism. So like in the countries, industrializing countries as Japan, this form of transition is much more evident, and I can say I can agree to Islam that both theory actually look on how the lower working society is affected, such as low pay by modernization theory, and for Marxism theory of development looks on the struggle between two working classes. So that is all from me. And how now that's enough of stating the similarity between these two theories. Now I'll pass to what about the differences? I think I'll pass to Pel and Kate on this.
I might start first. For the differences between modernization and Marxism is that modernization theory focuses more on the evolution of technology and innovation, because before modernization was introduced, it was more focused on social institution, social tradition, and the behavior of society.
All right, thank you, Val. Now, Kit.
Okay, so for the Marx and Marxists suggest the polar opposite of modernization theory, which argue for a capitalist system of administration and economics. Marxists think that capitalism will eventually fail, and in this sense, Marxism is the polar opposite of capitalism, focusing on the creation of system in which the state control the means of production, distribution, and exchange. Marxism maintains that inequality between economic classes is a necessary component of capitalism, and that this inequality exacerbated by capitalism. So yeah, that's all from me, Adam. Back to you.
All right, thank you, everyone. So I would like to thank you for the insights of comparison between two different theories. So I would just like to conclude and add a little more point. So as Marxism explores on the value of the labor input, similar towards Japanese society that looks on the labor input, meaning to say that the input of that you work is much more important as compared to the wage pay, and which is totally different from what modernization has suggested. So I would like to conclude that both modernization and Marxism have provided different perspective, yet they do have similarities, but on different terms they have different view on it, such as um, Marxism looking on the class struggle, and for modernization looks upon the working culture and the industrialization in Japan. So with that, I would like to thank everyone for their contribution to the discussion, and that is all from us. Thank you.
Thank you.